أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعه بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Amma ba'd, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We are back, inshallah. We'll continue with our discussion. Everything in human's life, everything in a Muslim's life is absolutely regulated in Islam. There is not a single facet of a human's life, a Muslim's life, which is left out from this law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything that we do is either fard or wajib or sunnah or haram or makruh or mustahab or mubah. Islamic law defines our actions, which we call the af'al al-mukallafin, the doings of a responsible Muslim who is sane, who has reached the age of puberty, aqil and baligh, wa aqila and baligha, we say in Arabic. Everything that he does in his life falls into one of these 7-8 categories I mentioned to you. First one is fard. As simple as this. And there are two types of fard. One is called fardu ayn. The other one is called fardu kifaya. Many of us know this, but some of our brothers and sisters who are newcomers may not have come across these terms, might find it a bit difficult to understand, because I have put certain technical terms deliberately there so that you, inshallah, get used to the idea of using these terms. Fard means something absolutely clear in the Quran and Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that a Muslim must do. And there are two types of fard. One is each and every one of us must do without any exception. This is called fardu ayn, like praying 5 times a day from the age of puberty until we die. It's compulsory, fardu ayn. And the second one is called fardu kifaya, communally compulsory, communal obligation. So if a group of Muslims within the community performs that particular act, the responsibilities removed from the shoulders of the rest of the community. If there is salatul janazah, somebody died amongst the Muslim community, a group of Muslims get together and fulfill the rites of funeral, and they perform the salatul janazah, wash the body and bury it. That's it, khalas, alhamdulillah. But nobody did it, and that Muslim body is rotten, or somebody else, non-Muslims, taken over that Muslim body and did there whatever they had to do and buried in the non-Muslim cemetery, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold whole community responsible on the Day of Judgment. Fard means compulsory. In this regard, fard, amount of food, is the amount of food which will allow you to not to perish, not to die. The amount of food. Even at that time, haram changes its status, becomes halal for that duration of period. When you are in danger. My father, Nureddin, give your seat to your father, granddad. Wajib is a lesser degree than fard. However, it is still prerequisite. It is still something that we must do. This is the Hanafi definition. That means you must do. Yep. The only difference between the two is if you deny the fard, reject the fard, you become a kafir. But if you reject the wajib in this regard, you don't become a kafir, you become a fasiq. That's one of the differences. Wajib amount of food is the amount of food that we must drink or eat to sustain your life. Thirdly, mustahab. Mustahab means liked, as opposed to disliked. Dislike is makruh. Mustahab, that is preferred, liked. Amount of food, amount of eating. How much, what is the mustahab? That is liked amount of eating. To partake in taking of food and drink to accompany a guest, a musafir. Somebody came to your house, and in order to keep him, you offered him food. He's so shy he can't eat. You sit with him and you eat with him. And he constantly eats. MashaAllah, you continue eating with him. Because if you stop eating, he's going to stop eating also. One thing that our Shaykh used to tell us, when we eat, always eat in the company of people. He says, if you go and eat on your own, a little bit too much, Allah on the Day of Judgment will ask you, why did you eat too much? But it says, if you eat in the company of a Muslim, guests that amongst your good Muslim friends, you eat together in a company, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not question you about that food, that eating, even if you ate a little bit more too much. That's why Muslims are in the habit of eat, more eat, mashallah, eat. So you go to their house, they put on a huge pile of food, eat. Food is very good amongst Muslims, mashallah. Not a problem. You go to any Muslim house, the first thing they offer you is food and more food. Because the more that you eat, the more hasanat they get. And the more balcony you built, besides the point. But they want you to eat. So in this company, if you were to eat, a little overindulge yourself with the food, this is even mustahab to do so. Brother, that's all I can take. Sunnah is to eat one third. I understand, brother. Not in this function. Eat, yallah. Eat. So to keep a company of your guest, because you normally don't eat that much, but to just graze a little bit. Take a little bit at a time so that if you stop, he's going to feel shy and it's going to be difficult for him. Therefore, if you don't stop, he continues eating, therefore you continue to eat. This is mustahab form of eating. Fourthly, the mubah, permissible amount of food that we should eat, intake, to consume reasonable and moderate amount of food and drink to maintain a healthy body. Unfortunately, this law doesn't apply in Australia. I have a very good friend, doctor of mine, who came from overseas, skinny as a toothpick, mashallah, healthy. I saw him the other day after 7 years of Australia. He said, one person asked next to him, how am I? I'm all right? Healthy? He says, you're perfect. I looked at the guy, he's at least 25, 30 kilos overweight. I said, brother, doctor, why are you telling he's healthy? He says, in Australian standards, it's a perfect weight, he says. Because nobody's skinny, he says. Everybody's obese to a moderate degree, to a certain degree. Everybody. He says, I give up on people. The guy is 172 the centimeters high. He's supposed to have 68 kilos. He is 110 kilos. MashaAllah, very good. Good. Because he's not interested in dieting. He's not interested in exercise. He just wants to feel good from your words, some assurance. Why am I saying this? Because food, eating, is one of the basic requirements of a human being. This is what nafsul ammara, the animal within, that our base self, tyrannical self, thrives on food. And since the needs and the wants of the nafsul ammara, along with food, along with sleep, along with intimacy with the spouse, along with yap, food is the first amazing requirement of the nafsul ammara. And it has no upper limit or lower limit. Nafs, you give him more food, the more he wants intake. The more food, the more he wants intake. Amazing, bottomless pit. So when the first level that we're all created with, shahwatul batan, love of food, love of stomach, which we're all born with, and every baby who doesn't even know how to use hands or arms or anything as such, the only thing that works is the mouth, sticks onto the mum's milk, other and begins to go, it wants to eat constantly. If he hasn't got any food, starts screaming. So it's something that is very basic to our existence. But Islam regulates this. Because if you do not take care of yourself, if you do not take care of your food and control your food at the mubah level, to maintain a healthy body, to do your ibadah, to run a very healthy system and run a healthy life, you become overboard. Tafreed. Ifrat and tafreed is called. Tafreed is the extreme. You become anorexia nervosa. You become a toothpick and you die of starvation. And the other one is obesity, where you eat so much, you become a fat slob. Gluttony is called one of the major sins even in Christianity. Eating. And our society is moving towards, because they have given complete reign over control over nafsul ammara. So we eat anything we want. The more money we have, the more food we have, the more money we have, more access to food we have, ready processed junk food we have. Without chocolate we can't live, without chips we can't live, without the junk food we can't live. True? That's how it is. Nafsul ammara constantly pushes us to eat, but Islam brings a regulation to it. These are the 4 levels. I don't think it ever applied to us the first level, the fard level. Because none of us ever put in that condition. We're not in a wartime. We're not being tortured by the enemies, so to speak. You're not a slave. You're not a POW. You're not suffering somewhere and people are they're torturing you, being a tyrant upon you, subjugating you. No. Second one is we do it automatically. That's a base. That's where we start normally. Mustahab is, alhamdulillah, we are very good at organizing walimas and functions. We go out every Saturday and with our friends we have lots of makan, lots of eating, no problem. And Muslims are the best food eaters. But the last one is the healthy food level, which Islam promotes and Islam asks us to do. Anything outside this is you're in the danger area. This is no longer equilibrium, no longer balance. Some people, mashallah, they have a very high metabolic rate. Any food they consume, mashallah, is gone in half an hour. They are skinny and beautiful. But some people's center, where control the eating habits, is completely ruined, like mine. Any food they take, before they know it. And of course, when we control, because nafs wants it so much, it becomes out of control, then we suffer the consequences. Health consequences in this world, but of course the akhirah consequences in the hereafter. What do you mean akhirah consequences? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will question you. I have given you an avatar. I have given you a body. I have given you the responsibility to look after this body. Why did you abuse the health of your body? Why did you overeat? Why did you eventually distorted your system that you become diabetic? Are you the contributor towards this sickness? You have high blood pressure. You have a chronic heart disease. All these diseases are because of overeating. As Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, there is not a single worst possible vessel that a human being fills other than his own stomach. When a kafir eats, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, he eats with his 7 stomachs. And when a Muslim eats, he eats with 1. Excessive eating is something that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam does not want us to have. One day he saw a nice chubby Muslim like me, and he went and poked towards his tummy. He says he had probably a balcony, and he says this fat should not be here. It should be distributed evenly in your body. In other words, you should be a little bit skinny. When you are big, if you have a disease, you've got a brother, I've got thick bones. That's the first excuse that we come up with. When you lose weight, your bones also become skinny. Don't worry. It's genetic, brother. It's all, alhamdulillah. Very good. No. That's your justification for your lack of will to become healthy, to be a healthy eater. But obesity is not a joke. Obesity is a very serious sickness. It is more difficult, they say, than quitting smoking. Yet, psychologists tell you, the dietitians tell you, there's a big problem. In Australia, it is on the increase. It is on the increase. But Islam already gives us the balanced form of eating. Wholesome, halal food, organic food. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us to eat from the tayyibat. Tayyibat, wholesome halal food. Now, we need to understand also the definition of what is halal and what is haram. To seek knowledge in this regard is fard. I've used the word again, fard. As Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says in a Sahih Hadith, "Talabul ilm faridatun ala kulli muslimin wa muslimatin." It is fard upon every single Muslim and Muslimah, male and female, to seek knowledge. This is compulsory. Or only the boys have to learn, the girls don't have to learn. No. Equal. It is fard for you to learn. What is this ilm? Ulama define ilm, al-ilm, the knowledge, in many different ways. But one way, in respect to our topic here today, is for a person to know what constitutes halal food and what constitutes haram food. You need to know. If you do not know what is haram food, your chances of falling into that haram is very high. You need to acquire this knowledge. This is fard to do so. There is not a single Muslim on earth who doesn't know that eating pork is haram. Have you ever heard a Muslim who doesn't know that eating pork is haram? Why? Because we teach our children at a younger age that pork, khanzir, is haram to eat. Similarly, every Muslim knows that drinking, consuming alcoholic beverages, any intoxicant is also haram. Similarly, every drug that distorts your thinking, illicit drugs, the ones that make you go merry, it's all haram. Any form of, including the weed that some Muslims are justifying of smoking. No hashish, no nargila with other additives in it. Hafidhan Allah wa iyyakum. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to ask you, what is halal and what is haram? He who does not know what the harams are, he will fall into that particular haram without knowing. If you're coming to Melbourne as a tourist 6 months ago, 8 months ago, you are completely unaware. You never read the newspapers or listened to the media that there is a bird flu. What flu we had? A swine flu, not a bird. Swine flu, NH1, something like that. Yep, what are those? And Melbourne had the highest concentration. If you didn't know and you came to Melbourne deliberately and you didn't know and you caught this swine flu, whose fault is it? Before you go to a country, you're supposed to open up and read. What is prevalent in that place? So what is the dominant sickness in that place? What is the epidemic in that place? So you can get some inoculation, some preparation, some needles. Before you go to Hajj, they say to you, you must get meningococcal, you must get swine flu, you must get fever, yellow fever, you must get hepatitis B, hepatitis G, hepatitis Q. On all of those hepatitis you have to put, and including flu, if you're above 65, then go to Hajj. Why is that? Who told you this? Medical scientists, the doctors. Similarly, if you do not know what haram is in terms of food, you will fall into haram food all the time. Every day, because food is an essential part of our existence. So we need to know. Halal, what does halal means? Halal means free, unknotted, literally it's saying to you. Halal is what is permissible. Halal is what is, everything is in essence. Ashya in essence is halal. Unless otherwise it is told so. Unless otherwise it is told so. Everything is halal. كل شيء halal, ibaha, mubah, unless otherwise it is told in the Sharia. Brother, it could be haram. Brother, it's only fruit here. It looks red. It's funny. It's called dragon fruit. Oh, haram maybe. I better ask a sheikh. Brother, it's a fruit. Salli al Nabi. It's a fruit. No, I have to ask the sheikh. Very good for you, go and ask the sheikh. But fruit has always been halal, unless the food goes through a fermentation. Unless you squeeze the grapes into something else and go through a fermentation, turns into a drink. Juice, man, drink juice, yeah? But when it goes through something else, it turns into something else. Then it becomes haram. You need to know. Unless you know this, you'll fall into this haram. Haram, halal is what Sharia approves. Halal is what Islam approves. What common sense the people, sound-minded people approve. That makes sense. It is pure, wholesome in essence. Haram, very limited things. Harams are the things that are usually very harmful to your body, harmful to your mind, harmful to your heart, harmful to your body, harmful to the society. If you study every haram in Islam, you would invariably see that there is a great wisdom in that prohibition. There is not a single haram in Islam which you study and you would never find that it is good for you that you stay away from that haram. Never, not a single haram. Every haram you study, it has some benefit to you that you're keeping away from it, or if you were to do it, it brings you some harm. That's Islam's understanding. Maqasid al-Sharia is so strict in this regard that a Muslim becomes a true Muslim, person of taqwa, when he has this ilm, knowledge, the difference between haram and halal. That's why in many of the hadith books, in Sahih Bukhari in particular, in many of the hadith books, Sahih Bukhari in particular, there is a hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that is the hadith that you see on the board. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam starts this hadith by saying, Al-halalu bayyin wal-haramu bayyin. That's how the hadith starts. Halal is clear. And the translator used legal and illegal. Legal is halal, illegal is haram. Al-halalu bayyin, very clear. And haram is also very clear. There is nothing in between. Who made the haram haram? Who made the halal into halal? Who did? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the lawmaker. And who else? Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam with his permission. Correct? Does anybody have the authority to make a halal into haram or haram into halal in this world? Forever? Never. Only Allah does. And it's already clear. It's already finished. Khalas. Nobody can come around and say, this book is haram. I mean, book is a book. Water is haram. Astaghfirullah. Water is halal, Habib. Juice, apple juice, haram. Ya Latif. Somebody came to me and says, it's a haram honey. I said, how does that work? How could halal be, what do you call? Honey be haram. I bought it with halal food. I mean, halal money, halal earning. No, brother. Yeah? I'm interested. Please tell me. You see the bees? They went to other people's property. And other people's other meadows. Maybe next door neighbor, kafir neighbor's flowers. And they took some pollen and they made the honey. Haram. Astaghfirullah al-azim. This is pure jahiliyyah. Ignorance. Believe me, some people are like this. I've heard this with my own ears. No. Halal is clear. Haram is clear. Somebody rang me. I spent 1.5 hours on the phone convincing that person that vinegar is halal. Because he or he said, or she said, brother, it says wine vinegar. It's wine. It says what? Some other vinegar made out of something else. Ya Latif. I said, do you know your Sharia? Do you have knowledge in this regard? Have you ever opened up a fard book and read the section on vinegar? Because Islam is a deen, a complete way of life, which covers every aspect of our human existence. You mean Muslims for centuries consuming vinegar, which is made out of everything else, including khamr, is haram? Impossible. I have balsamic vinegar. What is balsamic vinegar? It says 4 years. 4 little leaves on it. means it's haram, astaghfirullah al-azim. No. If you don't know the Sharia, if you do not know the ahkam, you will come up with this concoction of your own. This is why I said to you right at the beginning, if you don't have ilm, your practice is distorted. No matter how sincere you are. Practice amal without proper ilm, taught by our ulama, al-kiram, according to Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the mainstream Islam will be always distorted. You'll go to one extreme or the other extreme. You'll become ultra orthodox, they call you. That you believe that even the air that you breathe is poisonous. You put a mask on you. You can say to people, oh, don't breathe the air, it's poisonous. Or you spend to buy one item in the supermarket 3.5 hours, going through each ingredient. What's E7555? Computer. Next, E7333. Computer. Check. All right. This is not it. I will inshallah talk about these things in more detail. Because some of us are one extreme. And some of us are the other extreme. They don't care. Let's go to Macca's. KFC, oh, Kentucky licking chicken. Finger licking chicken. Yeah, sure. Halal, sami billah. I constantly see both extremes. I never forget. We were on a bus, there were some shuyukh, some teachers amongst us. And they stopped the bus, and we're in the middle of nowhere. We're traveling one city to another city. We stopped at a hamburger shop. Takeaway. And everybody's eating Lamburger. We call it Lamburger, not hamburger. I said, Sheikh, what's this? I said to the boys, what are you doing? We're eating. We asked the Sheikh. And the Sheikh said, Sami billah, eat. Say Bismillah and eat. Halal. Astaghfirullah al-azim. There are areas where you say always Bismillah and eat it. Halal. You need to know. But there are some times when you're 100% sure that it is haram. 100% sure that you're haram. And you say Sami billah and eat it. You know what happens to you according to our deen, our Sharia? Because you just changed the status of haram into halal. Who is the only being in the universe who can change the status of haram into halal? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Correct? If you take this law into your hand and change what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made haram already into a halal, you know what happens to you in the Sharia? You become a kafir instantly. You become a disbeliever instantly. You leave Islam instantly. But if you say, brother, I don't know, I was told that it's halal, I'm taking on good word of the person, and I'm eating, inshallah, I am not sinning. If it was haram, I will never touch this. That's a different story altogether. But if you deliberately eat haram and say, I know that it's haram, I'm eating, still a Muslim. But the moment that you change the status of haram into halal and say Bismillah, when you say Bismillah, you're actually blessing the food. Well, how can you bless a haram? Haram food cannot be blessed. Allah already made it haram. But Muslims of today, especially our shabab, our youth, are unaware. And no wonder they have problems with their hearts. No wonder they can't face their nafsul ammara. Because any haram food, any haram morsel that goes into their system affects their spirituality. Affects their ruh. As Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, and morsel, a little luqma of food that goes into your system will render your salat, nawafil salat, and your dua for 40 days useless. You get no hasanat. So important. Being a practicing Muslim, the first path that you have to take is make sure that your khibz, the food that you eat, the food that you consume has to be pure and halal source. Halal is bayyin. Halal is clear. Haram is also bayyin. However, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, there are certain things in between halal and haram, which is the gray area. Doubtful, full of shak, doubtful things. He says, a good Muslim is the one who should avoid this. It's doubtful, keep away. Keep away. A brother is doubtful. Be safe, man. Be safe. Some people say there is cholera in Broadmeadows. Epidemic started. Okay? Some people say maybe yes. Some doctors say yes. Some people say, what do you do? Okay, maybe let me go to Broadmeadows. 50-50 chance. Correct? 50 chance that you'll get the sickness. 50% chance that you will not get the sickness. Why take a chance? It's a huge chance. Similarly, with doubtful things in between, gray area, you should keep away. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, every king has a sanctuary where it is big walls. You don't come close to that sanctuary, it's palace. And if you bring your animals to graze near that particular palace, that particular meadow, there is a chance that you will not see the lion and you will go into the protected area, restricted area. So he says, be aware of the gray area. Keep away from the gray area. Taqwa, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, taqwa is the fear that you have, respect that you have in your heart towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And taqwa, he says right here, in the heart. It's the way you think. It's the way you process information. It's the way you understand Islam, the wisdom behind prohibitions. It's the way you apply that into your personal life with sincerity. Jazakumullahu khairu jaza. Inshallah, I will give some time for questions if you have any. If not, inshallah ta'ala, we can adjourn to our respective places. We have food downstairs before Isha starts. And I highly recommend for you, all of you, to stay back for Isha, because to come to the masjid and just a few minutes before Isha Salat, time of Salat, to leave the masjid is actually one of the signs of Qiyamah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says. Where a Muslim will pass through the masjid without doing his Salat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you such a blessing that you are actually freed yourselves from the shackles of nafs and shaitan alayhi la'na, and he brought you into, blessed you, coming into the masjid, and you don't do your salat. Last week I was so disappointed with some of you. Some of you just left, and only a handful of Muslims prayed Isha. Isha is far for everybody. Each salat is 27 times in the masjid. And when you go home and you pray on your own, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may accept or may not accept your salat. But if a Muslim, any Muslim part of the Jama'ah here, his salat is accepted, his dua is accepted, yours is automatically covered in that insurance policy. So inshallah, there are many elderly people, pure people, they make dua. Inshallah, we should also stay for salat. Now, I open the floor for questions. If you have a question, you can write it down. You can SMS me if you know my number. I can have a look. It takes some time. But if not, inshallah, you can keep it for next week. You can also, you can pass the papers to me, and inshallah, we will also have time for questioning. Because some people complained last week that how come there are no time for questioning? So I'm just giving you the questioning for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. If not, inshallah, we can adjourn and we can finish for today, inshallah. We'll continue with our journey next week onwards, inshallah. Any questions? Yes? Loud. Yes. Are you responsible? Is that the question? Okay, the question of the brother in summary form, one particular brother is taking a particular form of vitamin tablets, and that particular brand of vitamin tablets contains one particular substance in it which is doubtful, comes from some animal source. Is it halal? And the second question is, if he were to consume that particular, if presuming that it is haram, if he consumes that particular vitamin pill as a nourishment to his body, what happens with salat? Does he lose the salat? I mean, the hasanat of his salat for 40 days. Now, until Muslims get their act together and establish their own pharmaceutical companies and produce proper 100% halal products, we will always be subject to this particular torture. We are given by the doctors prescriptions. They don't know that you're Muslim. Some of the items contain really haram substances in it that we do not know, and we let our children take it. Sometimes we take it. We must always check, make sure that what goes into our mouth in terms of food or tablet or any vitamins for that matter has to be of halal source. And when if you need to take this particular vitamin tablets, you have some deficiency in it, it is better for you to always look for alternative if there is a doubtful substance in that particular brand. So you always look for something that is halal, alternative. Like when somebody gives you, a cough syrup, it has pure alcohol in it. It makes you drowsy, he says. You ask the doctor, I'm going to give this to my child or myself, is there any alternative, alcohol-free one? He says, yeah, there are plenty, but I get more kicks back from this one. It's more, I get more money from this one, so here's a prescription. No, I want the, non-alcoholic one, for example. Similarly, you can do your research and find out if you need to take that vitamin, and make sure that you take it, an alternative which is halal. Okay? If you deliberately take something that is haram, your salat is, as we have discussed before, will be rendered useless. But if you did not know, which is part of your question again, and you were taking it, until you know, you are still innocent. Still innocent. Because there is no deliberate act of defiance, of sinning. There is no deliberate act of taking something that is haram. You do not know. Somebody gave you as halal. You can't expect to know every chemical ingredient in every particular thing that you get. You're not a industrial chemist, or you're not a scientist. Correct? Therefore, there are certain level of knowledge which is required for you to have in terms of food substances or additives. For example, we say gelatin. Sometimes we say animal, fat. Emulsifiers based from animal extractions, for example, or lard. No problem. We know these basic fundamental ingredients which every Muslim should know, and say we keep away from these ones. But if it's a halal gelatin, it says halal in brackets because they derive it from halal sources. Not a problem. If you trust the company, not a problem. Eat it. But if you think that they say halal, but I know keep away from it, it's up to you. Make sense? So deliberately, if you ate something haram, somebody gave you a sandwich, and you bought from the shop, for example, from the canteen at school, and you ask for a salad sandwich, or you ask for a halal chicken sandwich which was there, and the girl at the counter made a mistake, not deliberately, made a mistake, and switched the bags that he's supposed to give it to the one customer to you. It looks exactly the same, you ate it. After half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, you just realize on the bag, or something that says, ham sandwich. What happens now? You go and vomit? If you can vomit, go and vomit. But impossible to vomit, it's already gone through the system. So you say, Ya Rabbi, please forgive me. I did not do this deliberately. Allah knows this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not hold you responsible for this, because this is a mistake. Make sense? But make sure that next time when you see the lady serving you pizza pieces, vegetarian, cut the haram, other ham, make sure that bits and pieces of pizza, the big little bacon doesn't come onto your pizza pieces. Or you go to, what is that place called? Some particular, some tenkai pala or something they call it. No matter how much you say, I want this, they still add some bacons for flavoring. then you need to be sure careful. Brother, dough is halal. We eat dough all the time. We make pizza with it. But if you go to one particular company, the reason why they sell the most pizza is because they put huge amounts of lard in the dough. Although you might have a vegetarian pizza, or everything is vegetarian and halal. They even wash the utensils before they cut it and everything else. Still haram, still haram. Because the actual dough itself is haram because it has najis in it, lard in it. So Muslim has to be switched on. Muslim has to do his homework. But Muslim doesn't have to go overboard with this homework that his life becomes unbearable. Okay? Jazakumullah khair jazak. Oh, I wish I brought my glasses with me. It says, I usually go and visit my Australian friends and they offer me food, and as a courtesy to their gesture, I eat what they offer me, and usually it's white meat meaning chicken, and sometimes red meat, probably beef or lamb. Could this be non-halal? Could this be haram, this eating? Could you please explain this to us? I will dedicate, inshallah, one whole lecture onto this one. Because there is a concept in Islam, Ahlul Kitab, the people of the book. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَطَعَامُ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ حِلٌّ لَكُمْ. Amongst the food of the Ahlul Kitab is made halal unto you. And there is also another part of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, only the ones that Allah's name is mentioned upon, you eat these. And we will look at, inshallah, with this perspective. So, without giving you any fatwa in this regard, I will just, inshallah, furnish you with all the evidences that I know of and leave the judgment to you. But whatever we have to say has to be within the books, within our fiqh books, with our ulama, reliable, mu'tabar, reliable books have to say to us. It is not a conjecture. It is not something that my opinion counts for nothing. I am not a sheikh. I am not an alim. I am not a mufti. So inshallah, these subjects are already being dealt with, inshallah, as part of our learning, as part of our acquisition of Islamic knowledge. Inshallah, we will inshallah, discuss this issue thoroughly. So my simple advice to the brother or sister who wrote this one, perhaps if you are feeling doubtful about this, is you better stop eating, foods of the people of your neighbors. Your friends could be Christians, or Buddhists, or Hindus, or atheists, or whatever they are. Inshallah, you need to be careful with your food. I'm getting too many questions. Jazakumullah khair jaza. There is one here. There is a question here. You said that every human being is assigned a shaitan at a certain age and lives with them all of their lives and entices them to do wrong things and advises and gives them whispers into their whatever. It says, do the jinns have shaitans also assigned to them? To be honest, I do not know, because I've never seen a jinn and I never had a chance to ask him whether they have or not. And there is nothing in our Islamic books, in our Sharia, that I came across about this particular concept. Because shaitan is from the jinn themselves. Jinn of the same nature. We do not know that. They are hidden from our eyes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them that way. They were the first species who lived on earth. And some of them still remain amongst us. Before the human beings were created, they were the ancients. They are still here. We're the newcomers. We've been here for not many years. So, I mean, in terms of thousands of years. But we do not know their nature, except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Quran teaches about them, that they are hidden, and whether they have shaitan or not, I've got no idea. Okay, sorry, I don't know the answer. Jazakumullah khair jaza. Time to eat food, and the food is getting cold. Correct? Finished? Okay, people are sending me some messages that food and pizza downstairs is ready. Jazakumullah khair jaza. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of us with beneficial knowledge. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with a sound heart. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with superior sound intellect. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us healthy bodies. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala beautify us, our iman, with taqwa and haya, inshallah, with ilm, and inshallah with good amal and salihah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of the mukhlasoon, the people who are full of ikhlas, and the people who know what they're doing, switched on, aware Muslims, inshallah ta'ala. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت وحدك لا شريك لك نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.